Let me tell you a story. It's kind of like a David versus Goliath, but from the world of biotech. It's all about a small company called eXoZymes and a massive scientific breakthrough that could honestly change the game for metabolic health. So let's get into how they pulled it off. Everything really kicks off with this one simple but really powerful question. What if one of the biggest keys to our own metabolic health was locked away inside something as ordinary as a peppercorn? I mean, what if it was so rare that it was practically impossible to get to? And that leads us to the hero of our story, this super molecule called NCT. It's got all this incredible promise, right? But for decades, it's been held back by one single enormous problem. So what is this stuff, NCT? Well, it's a molecule that occurs in nature. And what it does is it flips a really important switch inside our cells, a master regulator called HNF4-alpha. Think of HNF4-alpha as like the foreman of your body's energy factory. It tells your cells to burn more fat, and it supercharges your mitochondria, the little power plants in every cell. Being able to flip that switch on demand, that would be an absolute game changer. Okay, but here's the catch, and it is a huge one. As you can see here, trying to get NCT from nature is like trying to find a specific grain of sand on an entire beach. We're talking less than 15 parts per million inside of peppercorns. That's not even enough to fill a few bottles, let alone the millions you'd need for a real market. For years and years, this scarcity problem basically made NCT just a scientific curiosity, nothing more. So how do you unlock something so powerful when nature basically hides the key? Well, you invent a new one. And that is exactly what eXoZymes did with their breakthrough in biomanufacturing. You see, for years, the way you do this is with cell-based manufacturing. You'd basically hijack living cells like yeast and turn them into tiny little factories. It's a powerful idea, but in practice, it can be really messy, it's slow, and you end up with a ton of unwanted junk mixed in with the molecule you're actually trying to make. eXoZymes' approach, though, is completely different. It's cell-free. So instead of trying to wrangle an entire living cell, they just take out the specific parts they need, the molecular machinery, the enzymes, and run the whole reaction outside the cell in a super controlled environment. This gives them an absolutely insane level of control over the final product. And this analogy just illustrates the difference perfectly. The old way, cell-based, it's like a crazy, chaotic restaurant kitchen during the dinner rush, with 1,000 cooks all making different dishes. But cell-free? That's like a pristine, spotless kitchen with just one master chef executing one single, perfect recipe. The result is precision, efficiency, and a way cleaner product. Okay, so the theory sounds great, right? A clean kitchen. But does the new method actually work in the real world? Well, that's where the eXoZymes success story comes in. eXoZymes basically decided to prove their whole platform by taking on this impossible molecule. And they weren't thinking small. The company's goal, and this is a quote from their CEO, Michael Heltzen, was incredibly ambitious. They didn't just want to make a tiny bit of NCT, they were aiming for a 100-fold scale-up, going from tiny lab batches straight to commercial-level production. And the results? They were just stunning. First off, look at the purity. They hit over 99% purity. I mean, that's pharmaceutical-grade quality. It's the kind of thing that's almost unheard of with traditional biomanufacturing methods. And what's so cool about this slide is it's the visual proof of that clean kitchen we were talking about. See on the left? Old methods give you this messy graph with all these extra peaks. Each one is an impurity, a side reaction. But on the right, with the eXoZymes method, you get one single, beautiful, clean peak. That is pure NCT, no junk. And it wasn't just pure. They made a lot of it. The company successfully produced over 0.5 kilogram of NCT. This proved they could actually do it. They could go from micrograms in a lab to kilograms for production. The promise of NCT was finally unlocked. So you've proven the science. You've made the impossible molecule. Now what? What's the business plan? Well, eXoZymes has this really clever two-track strategy to bring this thing to the world. So on one track, they're taking the nutraceutical route. This is a much faster way to get to market, selling supplements to support metabolic health. Their goal here is 6 million bottles in 5 years, but at the same time, they're going after the big prize, the pharmaceutical path. This means developing what they call NCT analogs. These are slightly tweaked, even more powerful versions to treat major chronic diseases. It's such a smart approach, right? It lets them start making money quickly while they keep that huge long-term pharma upside in their sights.
But this incredible scientific victory has created a brand new, very urgent problem. Because now that they have a plan, the company is in a race against a ticking clock. And that clock is funding. At the end of 2025, eXoZymes reported having just over $3 million in cash. Now, for you and me, that's a lot of money. But for a biotech company that's about to try and commercialize a product, that is not a lot. And this timeline here, it shows you just how urgent this is. That cash gives them a runway that only lasts into the middle of the second quarter of 2026. After that, the tank is empty. Now, to bridge that gap, the company has to raise more money. But here's the catch, and it's something noted right in their latest report. A new financing round is probably going to dilute the ownership of their current shareholders. That just means everyone's piece of the company pie gets a little bit smaller. And so this is the cliffhanger, isn't it? eXoZymes won the scientific race. They unlocked a molecule that has world-changing potential. But in the biotech world, believe it or not, that's often the easy part. With that clock ticking down, the real question is, can they now win the absolutely brutal race for funding? It's a huge challenge, and it just proves that even the most brilliant science in the world doesn't mean a thing if you can't afford to keep the lights on.